Welcome. I've done a couple previous videos on the Ubiquiti NanoBeam AC Gen 2. I did an unboxing and then a setup, and the setup video was October of 2018, so that was almost 2 years ago. And I've noticed that the app has changed a little bit. So I wanted to make a video today where I just go over the settings I have in the app currently. So I'll put a link in the description to the previous videos. I'll also put a link to the hardware I'm using on Amazon, and if you use that link, it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. So in this video, I just want to go over the settings I'm currently using, so it's not setting it up from scratch, but if you're having trouble setting these up, you can see my settings and see if they are the same as your settings. So I'm on an iPad, I've downloaded the UNMS map, I'll open that up. And I have two antennas, I have home and remote. So home is at my house, remote is at a separate location. So this essentially shares the LAN between the two locations. So if you had a long Ethernet cable that you strung between the two locations, that's effectively how these antennas work with each other. So if I went to the remote location and plugged a computer in there, it would look like it was on my local LAN. So in the previous video, I go over how to find these, discover these, use the management mode. It's kind of hard for me to show that now because my system's already set up. But when I opened this up, it discovered the two devices I have. I have the NanoBeam Home, NanoBeam Remote. I'll go over these separately. So these are very similar, so I'll go over home and then I'll go over remote where it might be a little different. So I'll open that up. So on this screen here we have the NanoBeam AC Gen 2. You can click signal details, it'll tell us the local and remote there. Here we have a little chart that says throughput and capacity. So it says download is 5 kilobits per second, upload is 43. Then capacity says it's 655 and upload is 624. Down below here we have the IP address, the MAC address, the network mode is bridge, the wireless mode is APPTP, so this is access point, point to point. The frequency is 5775, 5805 MHz, the channel width is 80 MHz, firmware is 8.7.1, CPU is 67%, and uptime is 1 day, 4 hours. I just updated the firmware on this Saturday, that's why that's so low. I rarely touch these things. Next I'll go to configuration on the bottom here. So there's 3 tabs across the top. There's wireless, network, and system. On wireless I have access point turned on and PTP mode turned on. So on the remote side we have PTP mode turned on, but access point is turned off. Next we have the wireless network. So mine is named UBNT and then I have a password there. The channel width is 80 MHz, so if I hit that you can change the bandwidth. So if you're not getting a good signal you can turn this down. 80 is the most, but you could do it at say 20 or 40. Next we have the frequency, so it's 5805. So you'd want to find the clearest frequency at your location. Then we have output power is max, the other option is auto. And then if we hit advanced, we have calculate EIRP limit. So you want this on typically because this keeps your antenna from breaking the law. If you're transmitting with too much power, that can be illegal. This calculates how much power it can transmit to stay within the law. And then you have country below. So you need the country set because different countries will have different laws. So hit cancel there. Next I'll go to network in the middle. And we have network mode. And that has bridge or router. And I have it on bridge because I'm bridging the two networks together. Management IP is DHCP. So I have a router on my network that issues IP addresses via DHCP, and I'm using DHCP to give an IP address to this device. On my router, I've actually set it up as a static IP, so it assigns the same IP address every time. It also has a fallback static address, so there's 192.168.1.10 and the net mask for that. At the bottom we have management VLAN, and that's off and you can't change that right here. Next I'll go to the system tab. We have the device name, this is NB Home. Username and password, so that's to get into the management of this device. And then we have location. You can type in the latitude, longitude, altitude, and you can have it use the iPad location. So that's the main config. I'll click on these other tabs too. We have tools here. You can do antenna alignment. So when you're aiming these, you can watch this to find the best connection. It changes color and such. And here's signal progress, so you can move your antennas around and see what the best signal is. You can do a ping test between them. This is discovery, so this will discover devices. And then site survey. And that will show Wi-Fi access points on the frequencies in your area. Then if we hit more, we have firmware upgrade, backup. So if you hit the plus in the upper right here, we can create a backup. I back this up to my computer so I don't back it up to the iPad. You can reboot, reset to factory defaults, open in browser, that'll open up the web interface, and log out. So I can log out here. I can also go to the status page and hit log out in the upper left, and I'll go to remote. Okay, so same story here. So this one is set up in bridge mode also because it's part of the bridge, and then the wireless mode is station PTP as opposed to access point PTP. We have the same frequency on both devices and the same channel width. And you're going to want to have the firmware the same on both. I'll typically update the remote first, and then I'll update the home one when I do an update. I've never had a problem where I'd update one and then the other and they didn't work together anymore. Next, for configuration, as I mentioned before, access point is turned off here and PTP mode is turned on. So that's the biggest difference between the remote and the home one, is that the home one is the access point and the remote one is not the access point. Otherwise, PTP mode is turned on both devices. They both have the same username and password for the wireless network, that's important. And then network, we have DHCP, so this is given a DHCP address from the router on the main network. So DHCP passes over the bridge to the remote device. Then we have system, we just have a different name here. So I noticed the app had changed. I wanted to make this video and kind of walk through the settings. I know this isn't as comprehensive as taking a raw device and plugging it in and setting it up from scratch, but hopefully this helps people who are having trouble configuring these. I've been using mine for over 1.5 years now with zero problems. It works great. I back up lots of data over this link. So hopefully you can use my configuration as a base to get yours set up, and then you can tweak it as needed. So if you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.